Hello again. Welcome to another episode of the Uranium Market Minute. Today is Friday, August 26th, and this is episode number 173. My name is Justin Huhn. I'm your host. I'm the founder and publisher of the Uranium Insider Pro Newsletter, the only investing newsletter that focuses solely on uranium, finds the best risk-reward investment opportunities in the space, and publishes on a regular monthly basis. As always, nothing that you see or hear in this podcast is intended to be investing advice. I'm not your financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please always do your own due diligence when it comes to investing and always take responsibility for your own choices. All right. Interesting day in the markets today. Very big down day for the broad market. S&P down over 3% on the day, closing darn near the lows of the day. And the uranium equities down substantially today, although interestingly enough, a day like today, a couple months ago, would have been much, much worse. I'm going to highlight that when I go over the charts in just a moment. First of all, let's run through the daily scoreboard. Spot price of uranium sitting at $48.50 a pound, mid-market, unchanged from yesterday. Dead. You can hear a pin drop in the spot market. Spot, after a very long hiatus, the second day in a row, they were able to raise a little bit of cash. 184,300 new units issued, and they raised 2.2 million in new money while purchasing another 100,000 pounds of uranium. So Spot taking advantage of a brief moment in the markets where they were at a premium and buying a little bit more uranium. The discount to NAV widened slightly yesterday to a very small minus 0.94%. Of course, they traded down with the weakness across markets today, so that discount widened a bit again. Cash in their treasury now sitting at 32.3 million. Turning to the ETFs, neither URA nor URNM reported any changes in outstanding shares. So therefore, there was no mandated buying or selling. Now, again, the reports of issued shares or share redemptions from the ETFs has a lag time, usually 2, possibly 3 days from the day they're reported after the actual day where they were issuing and or redeeming shares, buying or selling their holdings. All right. Yesterday, uranium shares were definitely in kind of a consolidation mode after such a big day on Wednesday. Today, they're peeling back with the market. Let's go ahead and take a look at the charts. URA down 3.67% on the day. Decent volume of selling here, while it's on the backdrop of a very, very bad day for the S&P, minus 3.37%. Now, interestingly enough, I want to show you this. We had this steep downdraft 2 months ago in June. And with the worst day, it was the third day of that downdraft, 3.88% down for the S&P. On that day, Cameco was down almost 10% on the same day. So it was like almost a 3x underperformance of the broad market on a very bad day. So in my opinion, we really held in there in terms of performance of these uranium equities on an extremely negative day for the S&P. And so on that note, this chart I think is very stunning. This is URA relative to the S&P. Look at the movement of that candle today, barely down on the day. Very, very good sign. There is definitely an increased strength that has come into this market this week. It's very good to see. URNM relative to the spot price of uranium down over 3% on the day, as the spot price is basically pinned to the high 40s here, and the equities movements are relative to that. Wouldn't be surprised if we see this pull back a little bit further over the coming week or so. Of course, I would like to see another higher low. If we do lose the low of Monday, clearly, I think anywhere approaching the levels that we saw early July, which was basically the same valuation as we saw at the very beginning of this bull market back in December 2020, any movement back down from here, in my opinion, is a very, very strong buying opportunity going into what historically is a very strong part of the year for uranium equities. Finally, the Sprott Physical Uranium Trust traded down a little under 2% on the day, relatively strong, all things considered. Like I said, we were at almost a 1% discount. So now we're probably pushing a 2.5 to 3% discount here. Comparing that to the last few months, that's really not bad at all. We'll have to see how the broad market shakes out over the next couple of weeks after what was a relatively hawkish Fed meeting today. Okay, going to be a quick mailbag section here. I get questions pretty frequently about, Justin, what will happen in a downdraft in the broad market. You're so bullish on all these uranium fundamentals. What happens if we go risk off again in a big way across markets? And I tend to answer in a way that is similar to this, which is during if you look at the uranium equities long term, starting a couple of years back and going out, in my opinion, what will be at least a couple of years into the future, there's going to be a general outperformance of the broad market by the uranium equities in a bull market for that commodity. And while we have a relatively weak broad market, we can tend to outperform that broad market, which we are. But on days where we see really, really steep downdrafts like today, we can definitely get coupled with that weakness and in some cases underperform the broad market like we did back in May, back in June, with those really steep downdrafts. Now, right now, there seems to be a unique strength that has come into these stocks as of today, as of yesterday as well. So that's very interesting to see. And I think that the market and any investors that are aware of this sector are understanding that we're going into what is typically a strong part of the year for uranium equities. I don't think, in my personal opinion, that we're going to see uranium equities dump even with a dumping of the broad markets. Now, that's not to say that they won't be weak. That's not to say that they won't pull back. I'm talking about crashing. I think it's wishful thinking to think that we're going to get a crash capitulative moment in the uranium equities over the next, let's say, 2, 4, 6 weeks, possibly a little bit longer. I could be wrong in that. I just don't see it happening. Will we trade back down? It's entirely possible. Will we get another opportunity back at valuations from last month? That's possible. But it does seem to be aware to me that there is a strength here, and that is a good sign. And I think that investors know that we're about to go into a strong season, and hopefully a lot of those investors have been watching this channel and or subscribing to our newsletter, and therefore are understanding a bit about the fuel cycle, a bit about what's coming in the fuel cycle, what's coming for uranium. Like I said yesterday, like I tweeted out this morning, what is happening in the fuel cycle is going to happen in the fuel cycle. It doesn't matter what Jay Powell says. It doesn't matter how with the Fed if the Fed hikes 50 basis points or 75 basis points next month, the demand that's hitting enrichment right now is coming to the uranium market. And we had very, very bullish commentary from the guys from Cameco over the last month. Yesterday, Tim Gitzel was on Bloomberg on BNN, and he was breathing fire. And so interestingly, as part of that interview, he mentioned that they have a team in Japan. So I think that's probably something to contemplate over the weekend, huh? Cameco has a team meeting with Japanese utilities. Very curious. It looks like we actually could be seeing new demand coming from Japan. Not only a lessening of selling of inventory, but we could actually see Japanese utilities contracting for new uranium contracts. This is a big sign that that Japan is indeed going to re-embrace nuclear. It's not just words, it's not just rhetoric, it's not just intentions. It does look like they're moving towards actually making that happen. Very, very positive news, and perhaps justifying that move that we saw a couple of days ago on the following day from the news coming out of Japan that they plan to restart 7 reactors by the middle of next year. All right. All in all, a pretty strong week for uranium, and I hope that that strength will continue going forward. Like I said, we could see some pulling back here if the broad market stays weak, but going forward for the remainder of this quarter and especially into Q4, fireworks are definitely possible. All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate all the kind comments that you all left yesterday. I do read them all, even if I don't have time to respond to them all. Thank you so much, and thank you for being here. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Hope you get outside, enjoy some time off the screens, and take care of yourself and your families. We will see you again next week. Cheers.